What's up, everybody? It's Jordan, and welcome to the Sports Behind Show. And on this video, I have guest Blake Jude joining me. How you doing today, Blake?
Doing amazing. Finally back with power, and so I'm ready to talk some football because it's been a little bit.
Yeah, I've not really been able to do much videos with storms recently in the area. So in this video, instead of talking about all things sports, each Sunday I do a 7-round Cincinnati Bengals mock draft, and we are live on YouTube like all videos. And so I thought today's episode, we would do a Bengals mock draft, but we also mixed up a little bit by doing a mock free agency as well. There's lots of talks, what's going to happen. Free agency, Joe Tooney from the Patriots, Trent Williams. It's really going to be interesting to see what happens. So we're going to do a mock free agency, and once we're done with that, we will do a mock draft on PFF's mock draft simulator. So you ready to get started?
Of course, yeah, I'm ready. It's going to be a interesting off season. I know, a little bit less cap than usual, but at the same time, the Bengals still are pretty good in cap space. I believe they will probably be top 5 once the cuts actually happen. Hopefully everything works out. Once maybe a couple of these guys we expect to be cut are cut, we'll probably have a lot of money to be able to afford some decent name free agents, because I think for sure resolving this O-line is probably step number 1 in this offseason.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, lots of Bengal fans want Joe Tooney. Joe Tooney is not too far from Cincinnati. It's going to be really interesting. Before we end up, signing some top free agents, hopefully they will actually, sign some top free agents. There's a list of players that we can cut to save some cap. Is there anybody to you personally, like you think we should cut to save some money?
Well, to start out, I think an obvious answer would be Geno Atkins, former or veteran defensive lineman for Cincinnati. 14.7 mil cap hit is a lot of money to be paying for a guy who hasn't been able to stay very healthy. The cap savings average to around, I believe it says 9.6 million there. So you will be able to save a good amount of money by cutting him. He'd been playing with that shoulder injury for the entirety of the season and really generated to do absolutely nothing for the team. It really ended up feeling like Mike Daniels actually outplayed him whenever they were playing at the same time. So, in my opinion, you go in, you cut Adkins, you save 9.6 million. You can really use to allocate money to elsewhere, especially into re-sign guys like Carl Lawson maybe in the future. So Atkins for sure, and I would also venture to say that it's more than likely the Bengals look towards cutting Bobby Hart and B.J. Finney as well, 2 offensive linemen who are making a little bit more money than I think they are worth. Hart is entering his final year of his contract, and he almost has no dead cap money now. So this is probably the best time for the Bengals to cut him if they were to. As for Finney, acquired in the trade for Carlos Dunlap, really didn't amount to anything for the Bengals. To me, it really felt like Finney was just kind of there's a placeholder for the team almost. And he's set to make a good amount of money this year. So those would really be my 3 main cuts before we really get into anything more in depth, I guess, for now.
Yeah, I completely agree with all you said there. And, I've also kind of thought, the possibility of us, cutting CJ Uzama. I know that might not be super popular, but, we would save a little bit of money there if we were to cut Uzama. Got injured in the Cleveland Browns game, a season-ending injury. But that is risky, though, because we have Drew Sample, who's, in my opinion, still a huge question mark. You're still not totally sold on Drew Sample. If you would cut Uzama, maybe you trade back and get Kyle Pitts. It's not a guarantee Kyle Pitts will be there if you trade back. But there's lots of possibilities that could happen in free agency. So, like you said, we did cut Bobby Hart, Geno Atkins, and B.J. Finney. So with those 3 players getting cut, we are up a cap space $59 million. Were there any other players to you that you would maybe consider cutting to get a little bit more cap space?
Yeah, this is when it gets a little bit tougher, at least in my opinion. One guy I kind of look at that I'm still on the fence a little bit with is Xavier Su'a-Filo, the offensive guard, the Bengals side in the offseason last year. came in, got hurt, I believe, in the first game of the season, and then later on joined back and was a regular rotating or starting guard for the team next to Quentin Spain for the most part. Didn't play particularly terrible. I thought he was probably our best run blocking guard we had on the team, but it was nothing really special in pass blocking. Kind of felt like he was in the same realm as many of the other guys. I think if the Bengals are going to look to add a guy, especially like Joe Thuney, it would make a lot of sense to cut Xavier Su'a-Filo. He is making high-end backup, low-end guard money. And I feel like the Bengals also have plenty of guys on the roster already added that they could use instead of Xavier Su'a-Filo. And also, Joe Thuney has been one of the healthiest and most consistent guards in the NFL. He's rarely ever been hurt. So I don't think it would be necessary to put that much cap space into adding a backup guard. So it's wishful thinking because this is assuming you have Joe Thuney. And honestly, I wouldn't be confident in cutting Xavier Su'a-Filo until after we sign Joe Thuney. But if we wanted to go ahead and do that and to kind of ensure that we were able to pay Joe Thuney more money, we could probably go ahead and do it now.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, and that's somebody else, in my opinion. I think we should maybe, end up cutting so we can possibly get Thuney. I mean, it seems like each year there's one free agent, lots of Bengal fans, or really like the whole fan base wants us to get. And, obviously this year is Joe Thuney. I mean, he would be a significant upgrade to our offensive line. Offensive line, it's not good. I mean, that's why Joe Burrow, got hurt and went on a season-ending injury. So we do cut Su'a-Filo. So with cutting Su'a-Filo, we are up to $62 million in cash. So we'll go ahead and continue here. So like I said at the beginning of this video, we are live on YouTube. I'm doing the Cincinnati Bengals free agency mock on fanspeak.com. And then after that, we will do a Cincinnati Bengals 7-round mock draft on PFF Pro Football Focus. So who are some players to you that you would kind of like to see the Bengals re-sign and what their price may be?
Yeah, we'll go ahead and focus on the most important guys first. Off the bat, Carl Lawson is, in my opinion, by far the most necessary, biggest signing we need. And if we want to have a chance of retaining him this season, I mean, he needs to be the first priority. He needs to be the guy we pay the most money out of all these guys we have. He is the youngest and probably the most impressive player on this list. So I would 100% be interested in trying to at least throw him a pretty large contract to see if he would just accept it by chance. So the big question here is how much money would Carl Lawson be wanting to make? I have seen a lot of different values whenever I look at Carl Lawson. I lean towards trying to give him maybe $14-15 million. It's a lot of money for Lawson, but I feel like it's almost necessary if you want to lock him down. He did have some issues when it came to being able to use all his pass rushing moves. I heard Ace Boogie on Twitter tweeted and mentioned about him not being able to use his entire move set. So it does worry me that maybe he might be wanting to at least test the market or see what he can get elsewhere. So I think what's smart for the Bengals is maybe overpay here a little bit and just give him as much money as possible to try to lock him down for maybe 3 or 4 years.
So we'll try, you kind of mentioned 14, 15. I was kind of thinking in the 12, 13 range. So we'll try to go 13 and a half, kind of split it down the middle. And what do you think like the percentage should be with like guarantee money? Because that's something also, to really look at for specifically like high end players, for instance, like Carl Lawson and William Jackson.
Yeah, it's interesting because Cincinnati, I mean, assuming they actually have $62 million in cap space, I mean that's a lot of money to be able to afford and guarantee a lot of this money. But what Cincinnati likes to do a lot is they like to front load the cap space and guarantee everything up front at the beginning of the contract. So of course we saw Trey Wayne's huge bonus at the beginning of the season, and basically the rest of the money he earned is not really guaranteed at all. So I think if you're the Bengals, that's a really tough question. I would lean towards trying to guarantee close to around 90% of the contract, at least, maybe even 95% just to make sure you lock him down. Because, especially at the beginning of the contract, I mean, almost everything at the beginning of this is going to need to be guaranteed. Maybe later on down the line, you can look towards, making that less guarantee. So maybe 85% might be a little bit of a better idea. But I want to guarantee most of this contract, at least for sure in the front half, to make sure he wants to stay, at least for the near future.
Something to me, like when you really look at Carl Lawson and William Jackson, and if we would re-sign both those guys or even just one of them, it's really interesting to me if we would re-sign them for 3 or 4 years, because like let's say we signed them for like 3 or 4 years, they could possibly end up a free agent the same year Joe Burrow is. And if Lawson and William Jackson continue to get better, their price will increase. Obviously, I mean, I know Joe Burrow has only played half a season, but that's really something to me to really look at, because you don't want to have so many talented players who are free agents and just one like in the same offseason.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's I think with both Jackson and Lawson, these are two guys that are almost really in their prime right now. This is the prime of their careers. I don't think they're going to be making any more money than what they're making right now. So I think, I feel like this is a really good contract, at least for Lawson, giving him the chance to make an immediate, good amount of money, like a good bonus or a good money up front for him to be pleased with, and then let him ride out the next couple of seasons with Cincinnati and see if he continues to develop and become better. He's still relatively young. I believe he's 27, 26, maybe 27. But I think that, he still has a couple of years ahead of him where he can still be a dominant player. He's actually 25, so I was completely off. So, he still has several years where he can be a complete dominant player for this team. If you can give him a 4-year deal, let him play until 29, at that point, I think that's when you start seeing him regress. I think it'd be perfect. You get exactly what you want from Carl Lawson. Let him have a couple of, great years with Joe Burrow. And then once Burrow's contract comes up, you might have to allocate a lot of money towards him. You maybe let him walk in the future.
So $13.5 million for Carl Lawson, 85% guarantee, 4-year contract. We'll go ahead and offer that to him, and he accepts it. So we have Carl Lawson, locked down. Anybody else who you really, really, really want us to re-sign?
I would like to skip on Jackson, maybe mainly because, William Jackson does worry me. I think if there is one thing I'd like to do with Jackson, it probably is to place some sort of tag on him, because he is getting a little bit up there in age, 28, 29, I believe. And he will be turning 30 very soon. And normally once you see the corners trying to turn around 30, 31 years old, we start seeing them regress a little bit. We saw this a lot in the past, guys like Drake Kirkpatrick, Adam Pac-Man-Jones, Leon Hall. I mean, these are great cornerbacks who, once they got on the wrong side of 30, they ended up turning a new leaf and, slowly, phasing themselves out of the Bengals defense. I think Cincinnati really needs to look at possibly either looking towards finding Jackson a 1 or 2 year deal to stay, or maybe even tagging him one more year just to have that one last year before you start actually worrying about finding his replacement. So looking at some other players that I would like to retain, again, immediately comes to mind is Quentin Spain. I loved what I saw from him this season. I thought he really impressed me personally, coming in with it. I believe he only started for 3 days and immediately came in and played that entire game against the Tennessee Titans and played fantastic. He had times where he struggled somewhat, but he does bring what Cincinnati needs, and that is being a good pass blocker on the interior, super tough, can bang with some really, really tough guys in the center. And I think right now he's our best offensive guard on the team. And so, of course, we're going to be looking towards probably trying to add another guard in free agency like Joe Tooney, so maybe he would be after that. But that would be super fine with Quentin Spain being the 5th best offensive lineman on our team. I think that creates a fantastic offensive line. So I'd be happy to give him a $3.5-4 million contract.
So are you thinking maybe like a 1-year deal or 2-year deal with Quentin Spain?
I think right now probably a 1-year deal. I think that's what he probably agreed to. I think Spain still has a couple of more time to develop, and I also think the likelihood of Bengals adding a guard in the draft as well, maybe in round 3 or 4, is very likely. So maybe next year, if the guard ends up impressing pretty well, you let him walk the following year.
So with him getting $4 million for 1 year, are you thinking like guarantee should be around like 85, 90 because it's only 1 year and it's not that like a huge amount of money?
Yeah, I would honestly lean towards 90, probably 90% guarantee for the most part. A little bit higher than what Lawson's is, just because it's a 1 year. Pretty much all that's going to be up front, maybe a little bit throughout the season. So I would offer him about as much money as seemingly possible for the most part. So I think 90% would probably be make the most sense here.
So we just signed Carl Lawson. and that's rejected. You're a little bit staticky. And can you hear me all right? Am I staticky any?
Yeah, no, I can hear you fine.
All right.
Try to
So you
change
want to
the
try
volume.
to like renegotiate with Spain, or just like go to
All
somebody else?
right. Well, let's just try to guarantee the entire contract this time, maybe, and see if he wants that instead. So 100% guaranteed, maybe. Still rejected that one too. Okay, that's tough. Last time I did this one, Quentin Spain actually agreed to a 4-year deal, so I don't. Maybe he wants 2 years instead. I wouldn't be opposed to that, I guess, but I really don't find Quentin Spain to be any more worth than what that is. Try a 2-year,
So
$4
you
million
want to.
per year, and then 95% guarantee. He accepted that one for me. We'll keep him for 2 years, and then hopefully maybe front load the money for the first year, and then make it to where it's possible to cut him the following year. So that should work.
How much you say guarantee?
90% probably.
So we have Spain and Carl Lawson, and somebody to me, I love the signing when we signed him this past season is Mike Daniels. I mean, I saw him. He was in the recently Zimhude and Ace Boogie did an interview with him recently, and you watch some of his the games. I mean, he's really impressive. He's a veteran. He can really help, our young core and defensive line. His pregame speech against the Steelers. I mean, I absolutely love that. I would love to re-sign Mike Daniels, maybe like a 2-year, 3-4 million per year, or something like that. What are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I loved Mike Daniels. I thought he played really, really well. He brought a lot of heart. I love the way he's kind of a veteran for this team. Really was a great locker room, guy for everyone, and I really liked him. The only issue I do have with Mike Daniels relatively is the fact that he is 31 and had a lot of injuries this season. So maybe a 2-year deal might be a little rich for me. I feel like if the Bengals were to re-sign Mike Daniels, it might be a little bit more realistic if they just give him a 1-year deal just to test out. But I really do like the idea of maybe giving him like a 1-year, $3 million fully guaranteed contract just to come back for an extra year. If you continue to like him, if he continues to play well, maybe re-sign him again. But this is another scenario where I think the Bengals might be looking to add a defensive tackle or a 3-tech in the free agency or the draft later on. So maybe once that guy ends up developing into what we need, you can let Daniels walk the next year.
Yeah, and it's like you really look at our defensive tackle position. Defensive tackle, that's maybe. I mean, I know we have edge rusher. That's a big question mark. With Lawson not guaranteed coming back, defensive tackle we have DJ Reader, but that's really about it. Renell Wren is still a big question mark. He's been unable to stay on the field. I mean, we really don't have anybody who's really contributed to the team much. I mean, like I said, we have Reader, but he's coming off a season-ending injury. Edge rusher, though, I mean, with Carl Lawson, it's not for sure he's coming back. We have Sam Hubbard, and he's a free agent 1 year from now. So the defensive line in general, to me, like it has potential to be really good, but also at the same time, potential to be really, really bad.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it's something that, we need to keep the depth, guys. I thought one thing about our defensive line was we had pretty good depth, all things considered. We just missed that pass rusher that we desperately needed on this roster. And, I do think I am holding out the hope that maybe a guy like Renell Wren comes in and breaks out the following year, but I'm not going to put all my chips in that bag. So I would like to re-sign a guy like Mike Daniels, at least for 1 more year, just to see if he can continue to bring that leadership and consistent play to the team. So I definitely think giving him a 1-year deal is probably one of the best case scenarios for us personally, because it gives you an immediate guy that you like that can come back for another extra year.
So you mentioned you're going to pass on William Jackson, and to me, I like Jackson, but I do think Lawson is the bigger. He's more valuable and more important to our defensive line and just our defense in general. I mean, this past season we had 17 sacks in 16 games. That is unacceptable. Going into the season, I thought we could have possibly had around 40, 45, but at the same time, that's with DJ Reader. That's with Carlos Dunlap. Obviously, he's not with us anymore. Atkins, Sam Hubbard. Hubbard was injured at times. So to me, I really feel like Lawson is more important than Jackson. So we're not really going to sign Jackson here. So is there any other players you kind of like for us to re-sign?
I definitely think another guy that I would prioritize, at least right now, lies more in the special teams area, that being Brandon Wilson. Um, Great kick returner for this team. Really was a dynamic guy that, I personally love to watch return kicks, and is also really our third safety for the team for the most part. I still think the Bengals do need another safety to add, maybe for depth this offseason as well, because Brandon Wilson didn't play entirely a lot, and he didn't play entirely that good this year on defense. So I think it would be nice to add in maybe another safety, but keeping him as a kick returner, I think, is key for this team. I think, giving him the 1 year minimum deal of just 1 year, $1 million fully guaranteed is probably what the Bengals are going to do, probably what they should do. Maybe even making it only like 95% guaranteed. I made it 100% on my simulator, though. So I think just giving him that minimum deal just to get back for another year, let him do what he does again, would be perfect for this team.
I mean, yeah, I agree, and especially with Sean Williams, he's a free agent. He's a safety, but at times he also does play linebacker. In my opinion, there's no chance Sean Williams comes back on this team, especially. I believe once the season ended, Sean Williams only averaged around 10 snaps a game, which so I really don't see Williams. So I would really like to see Brendan Wilson come back. So he accepts it. So we have Wilson, Spain, Carl Lawson, and Mike Daniels. Somebody I would like to see us resign, but I cannot remember if it was Ben Baby or Tyler Dragon. One of them said that it was unlikely that we re-sign Mackenzie Alexander. Would you like us to try to re-sign Alexander here?
I am a fan of Alexander. I definitely like him. I do think, however, you look at this off season of free agency and the draft, there are so many great slot receiver or slot corners on the team, on different teams, that could easily be paid maybe even a little bit less than Mackenzie Alexander, be just as effective. So if you would like to re-sign Mackenzie Alexander, he did stay pretty consistent with the team this year, so I was pretty happy with that. But you could easily maybe find a guy, fourth, fifth round, or third, fourth round of the draft, or with the cheaper contract in free agency to play the exact same position.
Yeah, I agree. Some of them. Well, what would you say is, in your opinion, Mackenzie Alexander's maybe his price range, what he'll get per year?
I feel like Mackenzie Alexander is probably looking towards a similar contract. I don't think he proved a little bit much more than what he did before, so it really would depend. I think you look at the $5-6 million price range. Maybe if you like a multi-year, maybe like a 2 year deal, 2 years, $12 million. I think relatively would be a fair contract for Mackenzie Alexander. It really was just a rental contract for Cincinnati. Mackenzie Alexander didn't have a huge market. He wanted to prove himself that he was still consistent and good. And he came in. He wasn't entirely healthy, but especially against Pittsburgh, he had a fantastic game there and proved that he could be a pretty consistent corner. The issue is right now with the market, there aren't a lot of teams with a lot of cap space. So there might be the scenario where Mackenzie Alexander wants to test the market, doesn't get a lot of offers or anything like that, and then comes back for a smaller deal. So that certainly might be a possibility.
Yeah, I believe his contract this past season was 1 year for $3 million, and I done a simulator before, and I offered I believe it was either 5 or 6 million, and he still declined it. So we're gonna pass on him because I would like us to, but realistically, it was already reported we're probably not. But like you said, there are a decent amount of corners, in the mid rounds. Somebody I like is Ambry Thomas from Michigan, maybe in a third or fourth. But to me, like I said, we've signed Wilson, Mike Daniels, Carl Lawson, Quentin Spain. I would kind of like us to re-sign Kevin Huber. Maybe it's like a cheap deal.
Yeah,
Are there
just
any
a
other
1 year,
players?
$1 million deal. Simple. Yeah.
Something some Bengal fans like him, some Bengal fans don't like him. Would you want us to re-sign Randy Bullock?
I would rather us wait on Randy Bullock, mainly because I thought he struggled a lot this year, right? So I think that, you have Austin Cyber already there, who is he wasn't particularly fantastic, but he could easily go to camp and contend with someone else. So I would actually rather wait on Randy Bullock and maybe focus more towards signing guys like Samaje P. Ryan and Clark Harris to small deals.
Somebody else to me. So you mentioned P. Ryan, 1 million for 1 year. Would that be about right?
Yeah, just a 1 year, $1 million deal. I enjoyed watching him this year, and there are the question marks on if Mixon can stay consistently healthy. So just giving him that one more contract, I thought he played really well. I liked him a lot on special teams as well as a special teams guy for this team. So just giving him a just a small contract just to come back again and perform well, I'd be very happy with that.
You also mentioned Clark Harris, and to me, it's a kind of a toss up. It kind of just depends, how the way how you look at it. Is Josh Bynes? Bynes played decent. He posted a picture, in a Bengal jersey, and it seems like he would be open to re-signing with us. He played all right. Would you kind of want us to re-sign Bynes, or maybe look somebody towards the later round in the draft?
Yeah, I would actually really like to re-sign Bynes. He was our best linebacker this year, for sure, and I was really happy with him. I think with Bynes, you might even be interested in giving him maybe an extra 2-year deal instead of a 1-year deal, mainly because I think that you maybe look towards giving him like $4 million the first year and maybe a little bit less the next year, and slowly phase him out of the defense while you're letting Logan Wilson and Akeem Davis-Gaither develop, because they are still developing. And I think Logan Wilson will be able to eventually shift in or replace him. But as of now, Bynes was far and away our best when it came to run stopping. He was a great tackler, performed really, really well. And once you actually run third down, he would shift out, and then you'd see Logan Wilson and Akeem Davis-Gaither come in and be the coverage backs for the team. I really like the dynamic that the linebacker core has. And I think, maybe getting Bynes, kind of like that Vincent Ray deal where he was making, $2-3 million a year to be that backup, that consistent guy in the back who can be the veteran leader and be a consistent tackler and run blocker or run defender for this team. I would really like to have Bynes back for something like that.
Yeah, you mentioned Vinny Ray. To me, he was really, really underrated. I didn't really think he ever got the credit that he really deserved. He was with us for so long, performed really, really well. So, Bynes, you're thinking around 2.5, 3, something like that.
Yeah, I think 2-year, maybe try around. I would say maybe try $3 million a year just to see if he probably maybe 2.5 might be a bit of an easier contract there. But I gave him 3 on mine, and then just guaranteed about 90% or 85%. I think he should probably accept that.
So he rejects it. So
okay,
we'll try to go up to 3 million.
Yeah,
and let's see here.
I think 2 years, $3 million, and maybe 90%, guaranteed. I think that'd be fair for Bynes. Make most of the money at the beginning of his career or beginning of the contract, and then later down the line, maybe drop it to about $2 million, $1 million to, reject it again. Okay, maybe just guarantee it all just to see if that's what he'd accept. Because that'd be fine with me, I guess. But putting all the money at the beginning, he made $4 million this year, so maybe give him another $4 million, and then drop it down to $2 million next year, and you're able to get an out with the contract by cutting him. That might be the ideal situation there.
So you 3 per year, 100% guarantee.
Yeah, just try that 2-year deal, $3 million per year, 100% straight up contract there. Just kind of a 2-year rental for the most part.
So he rejects again. Kind of surprised by that.
Yeah.
I mean, he played good, but something interesting to me is like you really look at Josh Bynes. If he would not end up signing, it's weird. In the past, I don't know, 6-7 years, we've had a decent amount of specifically linebackers who play for us, like just for 1 year. I mean, I know AJ Hawk was with us. I mean, that was a long time ago, but he wasn't with us for as long. Kevin Menner was with us. We've had lots, especially on defense, players who play for us 1 year, kind of like a prove it deal, and then they may get like a better contract somewhere else.
Yeah, I think if he's not willing to resign immediately, maybe we just go ahead and sign the guys we want, and if he's still there later in the free agency process, maybe then we throw a contract at him. For some reason on my simulator, he actually accepted the contract I laid out for him, which is the exact same thing I told you. So maybe I just changed it up a little bit, and he decided not to resign this time. But regardless, that's fine. He isn't mandatory to have back. You can still easily roll with Logan Wilson as your starter, but I would like to get a veteran linebacker probably here in free agency sometime soon.
So Braden says, bring back Randy. I wouldn't be totally against it, but I'm not totally for it. I mean, that's kind of half and half. I mean, he wasn't consistent, but I would still kind of trust him than, a kicker now. But it'll be interesting to see. So are there any other players before we go to actual free agency you would like for us to re-sign?
I could see us maybe throwing a small contract at Brandon Allen or Marcus Hunt, but I'm not going to prioritize it right now. Honestly, I don't think we should. We have Ryan Finley, who is still a rookie, who we are continuing to develop, and he made a lot of strides this year, especially against that Pittsburgh game. And as for Marcus Hunt, he played all right this year, had a lot of batted balls, played pretty well there. But you get Josh Tupel, you get Rennell Wren back, hopefully, this season, and once those two kind of phase in with Mike Daniels and DJ Reader, and likely an added pick, he probably wouldn't end up making the roster anyway. So I'm actually probably going to hold back on both those two. I would consider them for sure, though, if they wanted to have league minimum deals to re-sign, maybe I would give them to them. But as for now, for the sake of just the simulator, I think we better save our money and try to look towards free agency now.
I wouldn't totally be against re-signing Brandon Allen, but at the same time, I would also like a better backup quarterback. I mean, I know Finley played pretty well in that Steelers game. He led us to a victory in Monday Night Football. But I feel like we could still upgrade over Finley and Brandon Allen. Backup quarterback is a really hard position to get. It's really an underrated position that you really need in case your star quarterback goes down. That's this past season. And free agency, to me, a quarterback I would kind of like for us to maybe look at is A.J. McCarron, bring him back. Played pretty well with us in the playoff game, the couple games he started when Dalton got injured. He's a free agent now. Would you be for McCarron, or would you kind of be for maybe re-signing Brandon Allen?
I feel like McCarron will want maybe a little bit more money to Brandon Allen. I know you said you would like to add a better free agent quarterback maybe. I do also think at the same time, ideally Burrow's back and healthy by the beginning of the year, so you wouldn't actually end up having those issues. I have been back and forth on whether or not I would like Ryan Fitzpatrick, but I look at the cap space the Bengals would have at this point. I think it'd be $3.7 million. Or $37 million left on all the deals, I believe, close to that, a little bit more maybe. So hopefully, with that cap space, you can maybe, because you're thinking of it in the future aspect, you're going to have Joe Thuney end up making $14-15 million, pretty good amount of money maybe. And so you would want the rest of that contract to be spread out into other players to just mainly fill out the roster for the most part. So maybe just getting Brandon Allen on a smaller deal might be a little bit better than paying A.J. McCarron maybe $2 or $3 million extra.
And that's something I've kind of done with the simulator. I've offered McCarron 2.5 for the guaranteed. He's declined it. But if you do Brandon Allen $1 million, 100% guarantee, he'll accept it. So you want to maybe hold off on Brandon Allen for right now, maybe look at after free agency type of deal?
Right. Yeah, I think that would probably be a smart decision. Same for Bynes. Just kind of let them see what goes on. And if they end up wanting to re-sign later on, that'd probably be fine with me.
So are we about anybody else before we go to the next thing that you would want us to re-sign?
If Sethan Carter would like to re-sign, I might throw a contract at him. Good fullback for this team, really good special teamer as well. I think Darren Simmons spoke very, very highly of Sethan whenever he was there. Might even send him maybe a 2 or 3 year deal to kind of keep him long term. I know Darren Simmons was a huge fan of him as one of the main leaders of the team, so of the special teams at least. So maybe a 2 year. $3-4 million or $2 million per year or $1.5 million per year contract would probably be what I would offer Sethan maybe. I would fully guarantee that money too, just to see if he'd probably accept it. Because I think FanSpeak probably would value Sethan Carter a little bit higher since he plays the starting position at fullback.
So he rejects that one.
Yeah. He's going to want – they think he's going to want a good amount of money. I think the Bengals would re-sign Sethan in real life, but I'm not going to give him $2 million to come back for 2 years. So we'll just hold off on him for now, too. We can go ahead and skip over to regular free agency.
Yeah, and to me, I mean, I wouldn't be against re-signing Ethan Carter, but I mean, I know Brandon Allen was inconsistent, but if we do re-sign Brandon Allen, in my opinion, I mean, whether Brandon Allen is quarterback number 2 or 3, I still think Allen should get the same per year contract like Ethan Carter would be, because backup quarterbacks. You kind of mentioned Fitzpatrick. I wouldn't be against us re-signing him, but I think he's going to get a lot more money than people expect. So, I mean, for instance, you look at top players here: Cam Newton, Jameis Winston. Some of those guys. I mean, I know Newton wasn't really good this past season, but I mean, he can maybe get a decent contract. Winston, wherever he goes, he'll probably get a good contract. So we go to the free agency list here. We'll go to guards, and I don't see Joe Tooney.
Is he not there?
I guess he signed. I guess he re-signed with the Patriots, and that was kind of the main focus of doing this video. That's
Well, that's fine. We can definitely look towards Darrell Williams as well as possibly being an addition to this team. And if Matt Filer is there as well, I think it's another guy we probably look towards adding as well. Might be a worst case scenario type, but at the same time, you could still easily add someone in the draft as well, possibly. Darrell Williams can play tackle and guard, and he actually has played really, really well as of late there. So maybe to try to find that replacement that you weren't able to get Joe Tooney, maybe try to get Darrell Williams. I'm guessing they probably tagged him since they probably didn't agree to a deal. It might be what happened.
Yeah, I mean, if Joe Tooney would re-sign or tag with the Patriots, and Taylor Motton tackle with the Panthers, if he would do something similar, Trent Williams, those type of players, if they do something similar, I mean, after we cut Bobby Hart, that is absolutely worst case scenario, because in my opinion, I think Penei Sewell is going to be there number 5. The way I look at it, pretty much every single time I do a mock draft, it's not trying to be biased. I just really think Sewell will be there at 5, but at the same time, you can't anticipate not signing a tackle, just hoping Sewell's going to drop at number 5. You can't do that, because I mean, if Sewell's picked at 3 or 4, you wasted your free agency by trying to get somebody big.
Right. Yeah, and I agree. I think that makes that is definitely correct. So I think looking towards maybe a guy like I already mentioned, Darrell Williams is probably my favorite. I would also maybe look towards Pat Elflein as well. Played very, very well with the Jets under Polak, who actually played or actually coached for them last year for the offensive line. So maybe a guy that's already familiar under Polak's offensive line scheme, maybe he would also be a good contract to maybe throw out as well.
So what are you thinking maybe Darrell Williams would go for?
Yeah, Darrell Williams, I think, is probably I believe he made pretty cheap money this year. So I think he might be wanting a little bit more this year. I could see him realistically wanting around $6 to $7 million per year on his contract. So maybe try to give him a 2-year, try $6 million and make that 90% guarantee to see if that's what he would like to have there. I think that would probably be at least a good attempt seeing if he wants to sign here.
So we won't know if he signs with us until we go to the done submitting offers for this day type thing. And something to me, I would like us to cut Bobby Hart, but at the same time, it is kind of risky. I mean, Bobby Hart's not good and he's overpaid. But if you can't get a top offensive tackle, I mean, in a way, I would kind of rather us sign an offensive tackle and then cut Bobby Hart, knowing you have that tackle, instead of cutting Hart and then you lose out on a tackle scenario.
Yeah, I do agree. I do also think, though, if you do end up signing Darrell Williams here and you get the contract, he would end up being a off the tackle probably for the team. But I also look towards maybe a guy like Cam Robinson, who's sitting there, who played with Jonah Williams in college together. So Cam Robinson was a left tackle for the team. Jonah Williams was a right tackle. So maybe you want to reunite those guys to be maybe the next two tackles, or maybe you could throw a contract at maybe a Kelvin Beachum as well, a low-end tackle. I still think those two guys personally are probably better than Bobby Hart. They're probably, average to, slightly, I would say probably average tackles, while you're looking at Bobby Hart being more of a below average type guy. So maybe just throwing a little bit more money at those guys might be a little bit more worth it.
So would you rather have a scenario, maybe we sign Cam Robinson to maybe like a 1 or 2 year deal, a little bit of money, or maybe like we signed Trent Williams to a 1 or 2 year deal, probably like 10, 11 range. He is a little bit over 30, but he still was one of the better tackles in the NFL.
Yeah, I actually didn't even see Trent Williams on the list. That's my fault. I would throw him a considerable amount of money to see if he would want to sign here, because he is a fantastic tackle. And if you can get Trent Williams back, or Trent Williams here to Cincinnati, I mean, that would be crazy. I'm trying to stay more realistic personally. I guess that's probably why I didn't see that. But I would also look at Taylor Moton as well. Actually, I would throw a lot of money at Moton. Let's click on him real quick and see if maybe we can offer a 4-year, maybe like a $14 million per year contract. A lot of money there for Moton, because he is a fantastic player and is actually pretty young too. So you can have him for super long.
What do you think his price range is? Because I did one the other day, and I was able to sign him for 10.5 per year.
See, it's tough because FanSpeak's system here is a little bit different than what I actually think would probably happen. I think, if you're looking to sign Taylor Moton and what, how much money he's going to be offered from other teams, you're probably going to end up competing for guys, and his money's going to stack up. He's going to making a lot of money. But if you can get him $10.5 million, I mean, I would take it. I'm not complaining at all. I think he's going to end up making close to around 13 or 14 million per year. I think it's even possible you probably see him get tagged by Carolina, end up making close to $15 million this year. So we'll have to see for sure. But if he can accept a $10.5 million deal, I will for sure take that.
So you may be thinking around like 13.5, 14 range.
Well, just throw it at him. Throw it at 12, maybe 12 would probably be a good, split in between the two. Because I feel like personally, if the Bengals were to offer, Taylor Moton $10.5 million, I think he's for sure probably going to take a re-sign to Carolina or take a contract somewhere else, because someone's going to offer a lot more money than that, in my opinion. And I would guarantee. How much did you guarantee on a $10.5 million contract? Did you guarantee that much?
I guaranteed 85.
I feel like probably guaranteeing him around 80% or 85% would probably be the best case here. Maybe try 85. Yeah, just some guarantee you get him, probably, hopefully.
I would really like us to sign, Taylor Moton if we are unable to, sign Trent Williams. But realistically, I saw a thing the other day in the Panthers. They released Kawan Short and they released Trey Boston, 2 starters of their defense. And, they save a lot of money that way by cutting those 2 players. There's been lots of talks, could they trade for Deshaun Watson? I don't think that's the case at all, because they don't have the assets to trade for him, because I know I'm talking about the Panthers here, but this does kind of affect the Bengals. I don't see the Panthers trading for Watson, because whoever trades for Watson is trading their starting quarterback. The Texans won't want Bridgewater. I actually think the Panthers are doing this to re-sign Taylor Moton to a much higher deal, like a 4-year, maybe like a 14 or 15 million scenario, rather than, some people are talking like, could they be doing this for Watson? I think it's actually for Taylor Moton, re-signing him, and that can kind of affect, the Bengals free agency.
Yeah, it certainly could. And, we're definitely going to have to keep in mind and look to see where Darrell Williams, Taylor Moton, and Trent Williams all go, because that's going to be, like you said, it's going to be a huge impact on what happens this free agency. Because if Trent Williams were to re-sign, you look at Taylor Moton now being the top tackle of the class, and he's going to have so much competition to be able. He's going to end up making probably $3 or $4 million more if we don't see Trent Williams end up hitting free agency. So, that would be a huge impact, and also maybe if Moton and and Trent Williams were to both resign, maybe Darrell Williams is now seen as the best tackle of the draft. Maybe he's now making a lot more money than what we think originally. So it's going to be really dependent on who returns and what happens to see what would really occur there. But right now I'm happy with the contracts I think we laid out for them. I think that would probably be some good additions, hopefully, if they were to accept, for sure.
So I'll go to wide receiver here. I know lots of people have talked about it. He's not a great receiver. Realistically, I think if I had to pick one player the Bengals would sign who's not with our team right now, I think it would be Josh Reynolds, the wide receiver, from the Rams. Taylor, is familiar with Josh Reynolds. He's a wide receiver coach of the Rams while Reynolds was there. What are your thoughts on us signing Josh Reynolds?
Yeah, in my opinion, if there was one player that was not on the Bengals, I think it's the best chance of at least being the Bengals being interested in, it probably would be Josh Reynolds. I really think he could be a cheap and good third wide receiver for your team. Very good yards after catch. Can get the ball and go pretty far. He played under a really good offense. He learned a lot from Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods, who are both great yak receivers for the Rams. And he was one of those guys as well. Really kind of turned up this year. He ended up playing probably his best year of his career. I think maybe giving him a $2 million or 2 year, $4 million deal per year contract just to throw it at him and see if he likes it. I think it'd be a great idea for him to possibly reunite with his former coach.
Yeah, I wouldn't be against signing him. So did you say 2 years?
Yeah, maybe 2 year, $4 million, both, because I think also you're probably looking towards the draft, maybe add a guy as well to probably develop next to Josh Reynolds. And Reynolds has played a lot as wide receiver 4 as well, so he could be your 4th wide receiver for the team for a year or two, maybe if the rookie ends up turning up in the next couple of years, hopefully. So, because I'm thinking about possibly trying to look towards around 3 or 4 to get a wide receiver possibly in the draft.
You thinking around like 80, 85% guarantee?
85%, I think, would probably be fair.
Yeah, wide receivers to me, it's because I've not really done mock draft simulators on PFF much. I've, all the ones I do, like individual ones, like for each team, I've done Pro Football Network. I go to Pro Football Network, Jalen Darden's 179. I go to PFF, he's around like 80. He's somebody, pretty much every single Bengals mock draft I've done, I've tried to get him to us. I would absolutely love for us to get him. But, it'd be interesting to see, if we would sign Josh Reynolds, maybe what round we would end up drafting a wide receiver in.
Yeah, for sure. And I think another position I would be really interested in looking at possibly is corner as well, because there's a guy that I would be really interested in if he's available in that cornerback class. That being, I don't think he's there. Ronald Darby from the Washington football team. I was hoping he was down there. If he's somewhere, I would love to maybe throw him a contract. I guess not. That's tough. There he goes, Ronald Darby. Yep. That would be a guy I would really like to just throw a contract at, because, we let William Jackson walk. We kind of needed that replacement corner too, at least a temporary replacement corner too. I think giving Ronald Darby maybe a 3 year, $7 million per year contract, around 80% guarantee would be huge for this team.
Yeah, I would like that a lot. And somebody else I wouldn't mind would be Mike Hilton from the Steelers. But I don't know if it's true or not. Did you say about 80, 85 guarantee?
That's about 80, I think. It's probably fair.
I saw a thing. Mike Hilton was in Cincinnati the other day. I don't know if that was true, but I wouldn't care to see us, possibly sign him. It'd be a good addition to the secondary.
Yeah, so Darby is an outside corner, so you probably look at probably trying to add also a slot corner as well. So maybe looking at possibly adding 2 corners in free agency. Brian Poole's there. Possibly maybe Troy Hill as well. Those are 2 guys I might be interested in. You already mentioned Mike Hilton. So if you'd also like to throw money at probably one of those guys, because keep in mind, we have Sims, Jackson, and Mackenzie Alexander walking. That's 3 different corners. So maybe trying to add 2 guys back might be what we would like to do. So if you want to add Mike Hilton, you can. I think another really likely scenario is adding Troy Hill, the corner from the Rams, who has experience with the team and playing, or experience with Zach Taylor at least, and playing slot corner. I thought he was pretty good. So he might be another guy I'm interested in. And of course, Brian Poole was a guy we almost signed last year until we signed Mackenzie Alexander. So that might be another guy they might be interested in. You could take your pick there. I think all those 3 would probably be good options to sign a slot corner.
I'll go with Troy Hill with the familiarity. You thinking around the 4 4.5 range, maybe.
I would say maybe even 3 million. I don't know if he's as to the same level as Mackenzie Alexander. Maybe trying to give him like maybe just do 4. Do 1 year, 4 million or $3.5 million fully guaranteed.
And
That
you
might work.
mentioned, so you mentioned Brian Poole. We were looking at him, but obviously we did not re-sign him. Somebody I wouldn't mind, us signing, because I believe it was last season. We actually looked at I believe he visited with the Bengals. Was defensive lineman Derek Wolfe. Defensive line. I mean, even with us, re-signing Lawson, defensive line is still not great, because 1 year from now you have Sam Hubbard, who's a free agent 1 year from now. DJ Reader's coming off a season-ending injury. Carl Lawson's good, but he can't do everything by himself.
Yeah, and I think if Shelby Harris is there, he needs to be the guy they try to throw a contract at immediately from the Denver Broncos. He played extremely well on the 3-tech once he was in the games. I think he would work really, really well off the side of big, nose tackle like DJ Reader. Harris is able to kind of cause some disruption and be, pretty dangerous in the center. And I think, you match him up with guys like Lawson and Reader and Hubbard, who can be dynamic in their own ways as well. It would just be a really good combination of both pass rush and run stopping for this defensive line.
I want to try Wolf maybe around 3. I'm not for sure if he'll accept it.
That'd be cool. Yeah, Derek Wolf's another guy.
What do you think? Maybe What do you think? Maybe Shelby Harris, maybe his price range would be.
Yeah, Harris might be a little bit more. You might be looking towards similar to a Ronald Darby contract, maybe around more $7 million. So if you want to get Derek Wolfe here to a contract like that of some sort, and then maybe look towards adding defensive tackle maybe in the draft, that might be a little bit smarter than getting both Wolfe and Harris maybe. So I think that'd be fine. But Shelby Harris is making closer to around $6 or $7 million in my opinion per year.
So let's say we wouldn't sign Wolfe, and it's between signing Shelby Harris or maybe drafting a guy like Nixon from Iowa. I know you like him a lot. Which one of those two would you prefer happen?
Yeah, so Davion Nixon, the defensive tackle from the Iowa Hawkeyes, is a very raw player, a little bit smaller defensive tackle, kind of like in a Geno Atkins mold, doesn't really have the crazy big size, but has unhuman strength. He is incredibly strong and super athletic, and he does really, really well in getting between the seams, between the guards, and causing disruption, causing pressure up the middle. And that's exactly what the Bengals need. You have a guy, DJ Reader, who's a mauler, who can create double teams for you, really good run stopper, is able to push the pocket back, and you let Shelby Harris next to him, working, trying to get in between those guards and getting through the A or B gaps and just trying to get some sacks. I think that would be great for this team. So if it was my personal choice, I might lean towards Nixon maybe in round 2 over that, but he's not a guarantee to be there, of course. So, but I'd be okay right now. If we do get Derek Wolfe, I would be okay with maybe, passing on Shelby Harris now and probably trying to get an extra defensive tackle in the draft.
So we've offered Derek Wolfe, Ronald Darby, Taylor Martin, Darrell Williams, somebody else I can't remember.
Josh Reynolds.
Yeah, Josh Reynolds. Is there anybody else you may be trying to sign before we submit offers for this time?
Yeah, maybe if you want to look and see maybe if we can get I really do think we probably want Josh Bynes back. I think that'd probably be, I think it's super important for this team to get a guy like Bynes back. And if he is there, maybe just trying to maybe throw a little bit more money at him, maybe a 2-year, $4 million deal. That I think that might work a little bit, maybe at 85-90% guarantee. I would really like to see if he could probably re-sign with this squad because he was fantastic last year. I really don't want to risk him not coming back.
It's going to be really interesting. I mean, I know we offered Derek Wolfe, he can play defensive tackle and edge rusher. This edge class, we're going to talk about it once we do the simulator. This edge class is so loaded. I know even if we re-sign Carl Lawson, I would not be against us drafting 2 edge rushers because with Hubbard, not a guarantee he would, re-sign with us next season. I mean, it's absolutely loaded. But something with edge that's kind of interesting in free agency, though, is Lou Onamaru. He's coached lots of places, like in college, like Marshall and Purdue. And while he was with Purdue, actually, Ryan Kerrigan, who's, been with the Washington, he was with Onamaru at the same time at Purdue as Onamaru. So Kerrigan and Lou Onamaru were together at Purdue. That's also maybe something to look at. I'm not saying we should sign him, but I wouldn't be surprised maybe like he had a visit or maybe we offer him a contract. To me, that's really somebody maybe to watch out for. Like a signing we did not really expect, for instance, last season with DJ Reader. I wouldn't be totally shocked if we maybe would end up signing Ryan Kerrigan.
Yeah, I like Kerrigan. I think the biggest issue is his cap hit. He might be asking for a good bit of money since this probably is going to be his last big contract he will have. He's getting a little bit up there in age. But whenever he was still playing for Washington, he was fantastic. Unfortunately, he just kind of got ran out of the defense with Montez Sweat and Chase Young playing as well as they did. So Kerrigan might ask for a good bit of money. And with all the contracts we kind of have already proposed, I don't know if we'd be able to afford Kerrigan as well. But if you do want to throw him a contract, maybe that would be cool. But I just don't know if we'd be able to afford them all together.
Yeah, I've offered him contracts before. He's offered 7. I'm not going to do that because I do think I would much rather have like Peyton Turner from Houston and Ellerson Smith from Northern Iowa and like the 3rd and like 6th round. Then Kerrigan, I just think that's maybe an under the radar guy to watch out for. But so is there anybody else you kind of maybe want us to offer before we end this day of doing it?
I think for the most part, maybe offering, since we didn't get Sethan Carter back, maybe looking towards tight end as possibly. I would like to get Sethan back because I think he is pretty dynamic in being both a pass rush or being both a special teamer and a fullback for the team. So he is pretty important, I think. Maybe look towards. I don't know. He's tough. Maybe getting like a 2-3 year. $2 million fully guaranteed, or $2.5 million fully guaranteed, or 90% guaranteed. It's tough because I don't think he would ever ask for that in real life, but in this scenario, I really want to get Sethan Carter back because I think we need him. Try 90% and see if he accepts that because I think we do need him back. I don't think he'll actually ask for that, but just for the sake of getting him back, I think we should probably try it.
There's been talks, we kind of, we offered Josh Jones a contract, because he has familiarity with Zach Taylor, but, with him being with the Rams. Something else to look out for is possibly, Gerald Everett, the tight end who's also a free agent. Taylor was with Everett or with the Rams. Do you see a scenario possibly where we maybe, cut CJ Uzomah and sign Gerald Everett?
It's a possibility. I'm not leaving it out as a scenario. I do think Everett really impressed. I mean, he really was the second tight end on the Rams. So I think behind Tyler Higbee, of course. So I think that if you give him starting tight end money, promise him to be a starter, and you let Uzomah go, maybe he would like to come here. But I think you probably end up paying Everett a little bit more than what you end up would be getting from cutting Uzomah, and I'm not sure how much of a difference they would make in overall play. So it's up to you. You can definitely try it out. I'll probably lean towards actually keeping Uzomah maybe over Gerald Everett personally. Maybe even trying to add like a Tommy Trimble or a Brevin Jordan in the draft might be a bit of a better scenario, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, I really like Brevin Jordan a lot. To me, like you look at, there's 3 tight ends, and then I think it's kind of a big drop off because Pitts, or we could trade back for Pitts and get like a good pick. To me, that's probably one of the best case scenarios. Freiermuth, I don't know if I pronounced that right, from Penn State, Jordan. Those to me are easily 3 of the best tight ends. I also kind of like Quentin Morris and Bowling Green, maybe in the later rounds too. There's been some really good tight ends coming out in the later rounds in the draft. For instance, Kelsey was a mid-round pick. George Kittle was a mid-round pick. So, tight end. There's a couple of pretty decent tight ends in the draft, this upcoming draft.
Yeah, I completely agree. And honestly, at least for now, that might be like that's like the first wave of free agents we throw contracts at. I doubt they all sign. I'd say probably maybe even 2 or 3 guys would sign. Most of them might be declined, but just trying to throw good contracts at some players who who are good additions maybe to this team, just to see if maybe some of them would sign.
So Will Clit, done so many offers. Taylor Martin, Darrell Williams, and Derek Wolfe, and Ronald Darby sign. I mean, even if we just did that, I think that would be, a really, pretty successful, off season to me. Especially, we re-signed, Carl Lawson. We didn't, obviously offer William Jackson, and Joe Tooney re-signed with the Patriots. I think that's pretty good. We get Martin. I am kind of surprised we got him for 12. I'm really happy with that, though. I like Derek Wolfe. I think that's a cheap, good deal. Ronald Darby. I really like that idea. I mean, he's cheaper than Jackson. It might not be as good, but I like that one a lot.
Honestly, I think you can make the argument he is as good as Jackson. I was really impressed with him. He might have been, he was, I think, in my opinion, easily the second best corner on Washington this year on a playoff defense, keep in mind. I mean, he was playing as a corner 2 on a team that was in the playoffs, next to, it's escaping me who's the corner 1 right now for some reason. Oh, my goodness. I definitely know who it is, and I'll look it up here in a second. But, I think overall, I mean, he played really, really well. He did exactly what you wanted to in a corner 2. And, of course, the Bengals are paying Trey Wayne's corner 1 money, so you're expecting him to be the corner 2. So letting corner 1, So letting Darby come in and be that corner 2 for you gives you exactly what you need and gives you a good player who can be consistent and healthy, hopefully, for this team in the long run.
I think Fuller is that number 1?
Sorry, I forgot Kendall Fuller. That's who it was. Corner 1 for the Washington football team. Sorry, go
on. So, is there anybody we signed those guys. I'm really happy with that. Is there anybody else you would maybe kind of look at here to possibly sign?
Yeah, I'm going to operate under the idea that we had already gotten. Sorry.
It completely restarted. I don't know.
It's fine.
How that even happened.
Well, it's honestly fine because I really don't know if we'd offer many big contracts yet anyways after that. So, we get those 4 guys as the main ones. I'm assuming I'm under the impression that we would have gotten Bynes and Ethan Carter in real life. I think that, FansPeak has them making a little bit more money than I think what they're asking for personally. So I think, adding those 6 guys and assuming we fill out the roster with small guys like, the Sean Sims type signings, we kind of fill out the roster for the most part. So, honestly, I think all the additions we made sense if we included Ethan Carter and Josh Bynes as well, who I think would both re-sign in that scenario. If you want to go ahead and go to the mock draft, that would be fine, honestly.
Can you see the screen yet?
I cannot, not yet, but hopefully soon.
Let me just 1 second here. This is crap. Yeah, I don't know why it completely restarted that. I've done that with PFF, mock draft I was doing the other day. Can you see it now?
Yes, I can.
All right. So I mean that kind of ticks me off. We had to restart, but overall, I with Tooney re-signed with the Patriots, I do think that's really, really good. I'm gonna send the randomness all the way down because I was doing for instance, a mock draft on Fanspeak. I did 1 mock draft on Fanspeak, and that's the only time I ever did a mock draft on there. Somehow, Rondale Moore ended up to the Dolphins at number 3. I don't know how that happened.
Wow.
This is not even the draft order. I don't know why. I was literally just on here an hour ago, and now this is not even the draft order after trades.
That's weird. For me, it works. For me, it says the Dolphins have pick 3. So, Maybe just continue. Maybe it was just asking you to select your team. I think once you actually go through, it'll probably end up adjusting, probably. Because it wanted you to select a team, so it's including all the teams, including the Texans, who really don't have pick 3, but are still a team,
Yeah.
Maybe just try that. It might still work, I think.
Well, this past couple of minutes has absolutely sucked. The draft was messed up. Free agency's messed up.
Well, yeah, I think honestly, after day 1, anyways, I don't think we're going to get many other prospects. So I think we honestly did exactly what we needed. We added those important guys. We added Taylor Moton. We added Darrell Williams. You have your right tackle. You have your probably your right guard there too. So really, you let Quentin Spain or Xavier Suafilo, in this case, Quentin Spain, be your left guard. You let you get I believe Quentin, or of course Ronald Darby to be the cornerback, and you look at also Derek Wolfe being a rotational D tackle for your team. So you've got a couple of great players there. I think you've really solved, for the most part, a lot of your offensive line problems. So I look for right now at probably wide receiver being one of the biggest needs of the draft. So hopefully maybe we get Jamar Chase falling here, since we ended up not getting Josh Reynolds.
Yeah. I really wanted Tooney. I would have offered him basically as much as he wanted. He was the picture of this, mock draft thing. But aside from, getting, we didn't get Tooney. I am happy with that, though. So you mentioned Chase. Let's say Sewell's gone and Jamar Chase and Kyle Pitts are both at 5. Who would you take?
At this moment, as I am currently operating, I would take Jamar Chase, just because, for the most part, the being able to have that kind of chemistry with Joe Burrow, and I think I just saw him taken while you're talking. But I think his chemistry with Joe Burrow is just fantastic, in my opinion, and it would be fantastic for them to be able to work together yet again.
I like Chase a lot. Pitts is one of my favorite players of the draft. I kind of mentioned earlier, trading back for Pitts to me is absolutely best case scenario. If we get like a second-round pick. So the first 4 picks here is Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields. Justin Fields going number 2 is a big, to me, it's really, really intriguing. I do think the Falcons are going to take a quarterback at number 4. I think whoever is picking number 4 is going to be a quarterback. I've said it for months and months and months, and I really do think whether it's Zach Wilson or Justin Fields, whoever is the 4th, who's picking 4th, is going to take one of those 2 quarterbacks. Somehow Zach Wilson is not picking the top 4. I was telling somebody this the other day. First of all, would you be for trading back here?
Most certainly. You look at your 2 top prospects, Jamar Chase and Penei Sewell, both being gone. So, having, assuming that, those are your 2 top guys and they are both gone, and the fact that Kyle Pitts probably will drop a little bit later. With a guy like Zach Wilson, people are going to offer a lot to trade up for him. So I would definitely look at some trades from other teams to see what they would like to offer us, at least.
Yeah, I know I might be a little bit crazy. I've told you about how much I like Wilson, but I like him a ton. I like him as much as Trevor Lawrence. I know that sounds crazy. I really, really like Wilson. I was telling somebody yesterday and the day before, Zach Wilson to the Bengals at number 5. I know it sounds weird and odd, but Zach Wilson, if he's still available at the Bengals, is absolutely 100% best case scenario. And here's why. The 49ers absolutely love Zach Wilson. John Lynch loves Wilson. He's been to multiple BYU games. The 49er fan base absolutely loves Wilson. You go to any 49ers fan page, they all have, Zach Wilson and like a jersey swap, with the 49ers. You go watch Zach Wilson's film, some of his games on YouTube. All the comments are full of 49er fans. To me, if we could trade back to 12 with the 49ers, I feel almost certain they're going to give us just an insane offer to trade up to get Zach Wilson.
Yeah, off the top of my head, I think first round pick this year, pick 12, second round pick 43, maybe also, a 4th round pick, like pick 117, and then maybe even like a pick next year, possibly, they would offer a lot to move up those 7 spots. Because, moving into the top 5 at pick 12, you're going to offer a lot of picks up to be able to get there. So, yeah. On my simulator, I offered them pick 5 for pick 12, 43, 117, and a round 1 pick next year too, and they accepted it. So if you want to maybe offer that, we get a lot of value there to move down 7 spots, and also add pick 43 and a 4th round pick while we're at it.
To me, I mean, I'm not sold on Jalen Hurts. If Zach Wilson's there, to me, if I'm the Eagles, I'd consider it. If I'm the Lions, I don't care if you just traded for Jared Goff. To me, you're taking Zach Wilson. The Panthers, to me, if Zach Wilson's there, you take him. The Broncos, Drew Lock, he was supposed to win MVP last season. For whatever happened, that didn't happen. But if he's there, I mean, you take him. The Cowboys aren't going to take him. The Giants aren't going to take him. So those, right here, I mean, 6, I wouldn't think, but 7, 8, 9. If I think one of those teams would take him if he's there. You mentioned some trade offers. I think the 49ers would give up, we would swap. We would get their 12th, this year. We would just swap 5 and 12. They would give us their 2nd round pick this year. I think they give us their 1st round pick next year, and maybe a 3rd or 4th round pick, at least something like that.
That's what I offered. They gave me their 1st, their 2nd, and their 4th this year, and their 1 next year. And I gave them their 5th overall, and they accepted it. So I did pick 12, 43, and 117, and the round 1 next year for their 5, or for our 5, and it went through for me at least.
Yeah, I did one yesterday, the day before. Their 1st and 2nd this year, and their 1st and 2nd next year, and they accepted it. But we'll do swap a 2nd. I think that's a 4th, and their 1st round pick next year. So I have a mock draft. I do mock drafts every Monday. I do a full round mock draft. They accepted here. I've not been able to do them. My power being out with the horrible storms. But I would absolutely love. I mean, I'm doing a mock draft tomorrow with trades. It's my first one with trades. To me, of all the trades in the draft, I think the 49ers trading up for Wilson, if he's at 4 or 5, is most likely to happen.
Yeah, it is certainly a possibility, and I would love it. I want to add as many picks as possible if I'm the Bengals, because we need talent, and we're going to get it trading down. So I would be very happy.
So we see here, Kyle Pitts is picked, which that's the difference between PFF and Pro Football Network. Kyle Pitts would still be more than likely be available. But to me, I think Kyle Pitts, if we trade back, I would want Pitts. An underrated team to watch out for is the Eagles. Zach Ertz, he's going to get cut or traded. Dallas Goedert has 1 year on his contract. I would rather have Pitts than Devontae Smith if I'm the Eagles. I would maybe have Pitts over Jalen Waddle if I'm the Eagles. I really feel like Pitts is a underrated pick, possible with the Eagles. So we have Trey Lance, Waddle, Micah Parsons, Devontae Smith, and Pitts and Kwity Paye. So, Rashawn Slater's available. Caleb Farley, Barmore, Darrisaw, Patrick Surtain, Bateman. He's going to go up a ton of draft boards. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes in the top 12, top 15 when it's all said and done. Who you may be looking at pick number 12?
Yeah, first thing that comes to mind immediately is Rashawn Slater. Slater is fantastic. He can play. He's very, very versatile. Can play tackle, guard, and maybe even center. I know we already added Darrell Williams and Taylor Moton. I'm operating under the assumption that Moton is your right tackle. Williams is probably either your left or right guard. He could probably play both if need be. And I also look at, Quentin Spain possibly we paid him, I believe, $3 million. So he could be a rotational guard. He can play backup for both of them if he wants to, or if he can. Darrell Williams can also be that kind of swing tackle as well. So getting a guy like, you add a guy like Rashawn Slater, he immediately inserts himself in as the opposite guard of Darrell Williams. You look at this defense or offensive line now. You have Jonah Williams left tackle. You have we'll say Slater plays left guard. Rashawn Slater left guard. At center you have Trey Hopkins. Right guard is Darrell Williams. Right tackle is Taylor Moton, and the backup is Quentin Spain as well as Taylor Moton, or as Darrell Williams being the backup to both the tackles. That is a great offensive line. I mean, your entire offensive line issues are completely fixed. You upgrade Hart, you upgrade pretty much everyone. Alex Redmond, you upgrade Xavier Suafilo, you upgrade all the positions that you needed to upgrade in this draft. I think Slater finally ends the suffering we've been having for so long at offensive line by getting him here.
Yeah, I would take Slater here, but if we did not sign Ronald Darby, I wouldn't totally be against Patrick Surtain or Farley. But I believe you tweeted out something today how Slater, I mean, trading back wouldn't be bad, but number 5 would be horrible, and I completely agree with that. I mean, for instance, let's go back here. I mean, pick number 5, Trey Lance. I mean, we're not going to take him, but Parsons, Waddle, Devontae Smith, Kyle Pitts. I've seen some people say we should take a offensive lineman at pick number 5 regardless. I don't think that's the case. There's a difference between team needs and best player available. You don't reach for team needs. I mean, we did that with Billy Price, and at this point, look what happened. It's not really, panned out. But if we traded back and got Slater, I would be, totally for it. Especially, we're still getting him, or we're getting like a first round pick next year in return as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I completely agree. I think if we not gotten Ronald Darby, my pick here might have actually been Caleb Farley. I have Caleb Farley graded higher than Rashawn Slater. My issue with Slater, and something I've talked about and been very vocal about, he is not the most athletic or physically gifted person. He is fantastic when it comes to footwork and technique. He has all of that. He can immediately step in and be fantastic. The same as Jonah Williams for the most part. But you look at the edge rushers in the AFC North, particularly Myles Garrett and TJ Watt, who have, pretty long arms, especially Myles Garrett having, I believe, 35, 36-inch arms. You look at Rashawn Slater probably having around 33 inches, and he will not be able to match the physicality and the overall length and athleticism Myles Garrett has. So he is limited athletically to be a tackle for the AFC North. And I think that ideally for Cincinnati, you add a tackle like Darrell Williams or Taylor Moton, like we added, and then maybe drafting Rashawn Slater at that point. If we traded down to pick 12 or something like that, maybe in the guard, he could be a fantastic guard because he doesn't require the arm length necessary to be able to match up with the D tackles, because they don't really have normally long arms either. So he can use his footwork, he can use his technique while being the guard and playing inside against these guys who are not as physically gifted as guys like Myles Garrett. So I think he would be in perfect harmony with the rest of this offensive line if we were able to add him and move him inside.
So Slater at 12 then?
Yeah, I think Slater at 12.
And it's really interesting in this scenario because if we trade back, we're going to get a second-round pick at least, whoever we trade back to, in my opinion. And it's interesting because I'd say, we don't sign Tooney if Wyatt Davis is there. I mean, we did sign Josh Reynolds, and Terrence Marshall was there. If we, maybe take him, I wouldn't mind him, but I also would kind of prefer a wide receiver in the later rounds because this wide receiver class is really, really talented.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, and I think here's where you probably look towards adding wide receiver. I saw a couple go off the board, but I believe I saw Terrace Marshall still available. So if he is there, I would love that pick. If that is, I don't know if he's on the board or not. Is he not there? I didn't see him be drafted.
Yeah, he's still there.
Yeah, I'm definitely taking Terrace Marshall in this scenario personally because he has the chemistry with Joe Burrow. He offers that Z wide receiver for this team that what they need. He has a long speed to get deep. He can get deep and get those deep balls from Joe Burrow perfectly. He stretches the field a little bit more. You match him up with T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd, who can both be dangerous. T. Higgins being on the boundary, Tyler Boyd being dangerous in the middle. I think Marshall complements them both, being that kind of guy. He's not the fastest receiver, but he does have the deep threat ability to be able to take the top off the defense if necessary with his long speed and be able to get down the field and make good contested catches because he is I think he's physically gifted at wide receiver, and he has good technique and good, route running overall necessary to be able to, be dangerous for the future of this league. There are a couple other guys I would consider. Maybe if you would scroll down a little bit, I think maybe we could look at some of them. Yeah, Elijah Molden's interesting. Richie Grant's a really good safety I like. Tyson Campbell's pretty good. Liam Eichenberg, Aaron Robinson I like a lot. Peyton Turner's there. I don't really think there's any guy here necessarily better than Terrace Marshall. I think you can definitely consider a couple of guys there, but in my opinion, and you feel free to interject if you disagree, but I think Terrace Marshall is probably the best player on the board if it's a huge need for this team.
I don't disagree with the pick. I wouldn't be against it. Like, if we picked Marshall in the second round, like, do you think there's like, I know I wouldn't care at Marshall in the second round, but to me, this wide receiver class is so loaded, and I know we have already a pretty good receiver group. I still wouldn't be against drafting wide receiver and like in a like fifth or sixth, something like that, like Marquez Stevenson from Houston. And I know that might be like not really smart to draft two really good receivers, but to me, this just wide receiver class is like so talented. But with Marshall getting him in a second, like I do agree. I think he's the best player on the board, but at the same time, I kind of like we can still get a really good wide receiver in the next round. But I do think Terrence Marshall is the best player on the board, and also we pick him 5 picks, and I mean he's the best player on the board. So obviously, he's the best wide receiver on the board. So we will go ahead and take him here.
And I like what you said. I still think getting another wide receiver a little bit later in the draft still makes a lot of sense because, you lose Erickson likely. We lost Erickson at least in our offseason simulator. And, of course, you lose Green and Ross. So you have to replace some of those guys. So I think maybe getting another guy in the draft later on also makes a lot of sense.
So who's maybe like some people you're looking here at 43? And, this is the pick we're getting because, we traded back. If people are just tuning in, we traded back with the 49ers. We swapped picks in the first round. They gave us their second round pick this year, their fourth round pick this year, and their first next year.
So off the top, immediately what I noticed is Elijah Molden. They list him as a safety from Washington, but he really is a nickel corner, a slot corner for your team. I think he can be great. Keep in mind, we didn't end up getting a slot corner because of Troy Hill, I believe, designing our deal. So we did get, of course, Ronald Darby, and of course, Darius Phillips can easily be a good slot corner for you as well. But I would like to add a backup. Molden's a guy I like a lot, and I also see Tyson Campbell, Aaron Robinson, and Greg Newsome, cornerback from Northwestern. I have him graded really high on my board. He's at rank 60, I believe. I'm looking at it right now on the PFF big boards. Yeah, he's right there. He could be another really good addition. He's a little bit later in the draft if maybe you want to wait and see if he maybe falls a little bit longer. But I have Greg Newsome graded very high. Him and Tyson Campbell are pretty close, but I think I might have a Newsome grade a little bit higher. I think he has a bit of versatility between being a slot corner and also being an outside guy. Aleem McNeil interests me. Ronnie Perkins, Marvin Wilson's here. Davion Nixon, pick 66. I don't think he should be there. I think he should be a lot higher. Same with Joseph Osai, pick 65. I think both those guys should be first rounders close to around that area, but they both intrigue me a lot. Eric Stokes, I like a lot as well. There's a lot of guys I like here. PFF's board's a little bit is pretty far off from what my board is personally, so it's a embarrassment of riches. But if you want to go ahead and make an offer or go ahead and do the pick here. I don't want to take all the thunder away from you. I would love to be able to see what you would be interested in here, maybe.
This is the thing that kind of intrigues me and makes it really interesting because if we trade back, we did get Marshall, and it's like if we got a corner there with our first pick, maybe it was Tyson Campbell or something like that. It's like. You have lots of team needs, but you don't really know where to start. Aleem McNeil from North Carolina State, he's really good. I wouldn't mind him, but I've done simulators on here. Where I've got Nixon from Iowa in the third round, but at the same time, like those type of scenarios, you don't want to because Nixon's probably like this behind McNeil. You don't want to draft somebody else just hoping like somebody falls in the next round.
Right.
I do like Newsome a lot. I've seen mock drafts have him, in the first round. He's, boards a lot. But we did sign Ronald Darby. But also at the same time, you look at Darius Phillips is a free agent 1 year from now. And I know we signed Darby, but that's also kind of something to look at as well.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I think corner would be, even with Darby, it's still going to be a pretty big need because, as you mentioned, Darius Phillips hits free agency, and you also, you lose Mackenzie Alexander. We don't have LaShawn Sims anymore as well, so you kind of need that depth anyways. And here, late round 2, it makes a lot of sense to maybe add a guy who can be consistent, maybe a future starter once either Phillips' contract runs up or maybe even Trey Wayne. So, I see the corners listed: Elijah Molden, Tyson Campbell, Aaron Robinson, Greg Newsome. I think Greg Newsome is my highest rated, but I really like Tyson Campbell as well. I think he could be he's a really good athlete, I think. And he plays really, really well on zone in particular. And I think this team, at least the Bengals, are a team that plays heavy zone under Lou Anarumo's offense or defense, excuse me. So I think he could be a good fit with this team if you maybe wanted to try to draft him.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking Campbell. I mean, he was really good this past season, with Georgia. I mean, playing tough competition. I mean, you're lining up some of the best receivers in the league, country, and you're still able to do really good. And like I said, I know we signed Darby, but still, I think corner is a need. And Campbell, I know he's 52 here, but I mean, he's still one of the better players at this pick, and one of the best players at his position. So, would you take Campbell at 43 here?
Yeah, in my opinion, I think Campbell should be the pick. He fits the team very well. I think he could be a great fit. We have Darby for 3 years. We have Waynes for a couple of years as well, but also they can have an out for Waynes' contract if need be. So, they do have certain outs. And as you mentioned, Darius Phillips being a possible free agent. I think you likely put Phillips as your starter at the slot corner, but having Tyson Campbell kind of be that fourth guy who can come in at any time. Maybe if any of these guys gets hurt, he immediately replaces them. And I don't think he dropped off at all on production. I think he can be very, very good for your team if need be.
So, I mean, with us trading back, I mean, like I said, it makes it really interesting. And, the third round, I mean, Davion Nixon is available. And I know you like him a lot.
My guy.
Creed Humphrey, to me, it's kind of weird because you look at Pro Football Network and PFF, they're a lot different. I think there's a chance Creed Humphrey, I know it may be a little bit of a reach. I wouldn't be totally shocked if he ended up going into the first round of the Steelers. I think that makes a lot of sense. With Pouncey recently retiring, I am surprised to see, Creed Humphrey there. Eric Stokes, from Georgia. I mean, we just drafted his teammate Tyson Campbell. So, I mean, anybody aside from Nixon that's really standing out to you here in the third round?
It's tough. Nixon's probably for sure my favorite. Looking at him right now, I do like Thomas Graham a pretty good bit. I am interested by Jamin Davis from Kentucky. There are a couple of other guys I do like on the board. Jalen Darden's a guy I like a lot, wide receiver. I think he can be very, very good. Joe Tryon's another guy I like a lot as well. I would actually maybe consider taking Joe Tryon over Davion Nixon just because I think they are both. It just depends on what you really want. If you want a guy off the edge or a guy in the middle right now. But I think, at least in my opinion, I look at the board. I really see best overall player, being a tie between Tryon and Nixon. And I think Nixon really feels a bigger need for you at this point because, of course, you cut Atkins. You do add Wolf, who can be a good rotational, D tackle for your team, but you need that true 3 tech, and I think Nixon fits that. You already have your 2 starting edge rushers in Sam Hubbard and Carl Lawson, so I think you can afford to wait a little bit longer to take edge rusher.
Something else to look at, that Derek Wolf contract was only 1 year. So, 1 year from now, we still need, some more defensive line help. I do like Nixon a lot. I mean, he's a team need. He's the best player available. If you can get team need and best player available, like if you're picking, that's always great. You mentioned Joe Tryon. I would kind of prefer Nixon because to me, in the next round, I mean, I don't know why, but PFF has him rated so low. I absolutely love Patrick Jones from Pittsburgh. Like to me, like this edge class is so loaded. Like if Patrick Jones was there in the next round and we were able to get Davion Nixon here, I mean, within the just first couple of rounds, I mean, we could have, Tyson Campbell, Davion Nixon, and Patrick Jones. I mean, that is a significant upgrade to our defense.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think that they are both huge feels you get for your team, and I think this is the perfect time to get defensive linemen are these rounds right here, rounds 2, 3, and 4. I think is what you ideally want to build your defensive line if you can. And with the trade back we got so many picks in return. You can make this pick here and possibly get an edge rusher next.
So we'll take Devion Nixon, defensive tackle from Iowa, in the 3rd. So I already kind of mentioned, like, Patrick Jones to me, I really don't understand why he's so low in here. To me, I wouldn't be against us taking him in the 2nd or trading back in the 2nd. He's one of my favorite edge rushers. And I know we, possibly, we also took Terrence Marshall. Completely forgot about him. Us having 2 second-round picks with that 49ers trade. I kind of mentioned the possibility of maybe getting 2 wide receivers. I wouldn't be against us taking 2 edge rushers. Maybe, you look at some late guys. Ellerson Smith from Northern Iowa and Teron Jackson from Coastal Carolina. I really like those guys, especially if you can get like Shakatoni and Patrick Jones in the 4th. Those are 2. Like, if you get 2 of those guys, those 4 or 5 guys I mentioned, that's really, really that's a big boost to your edge group. And those guys are on rookie contracts, and they have potential to be really, really good.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think now you probably look towards maybe trying to add an edge rusher. Quincy Roche on the board right there. I like him a lot. And you also see Patrick Jones maybe being there as well. So I think this is your ideal place where you could probably take an edge rusher here. I think getting a good pass rusher off the edge to kind of match up with Carl Lawson on 3rd down is what you ideally want. A guy who can get in, get pressure off the edge. Roche fits that, and I think also Patrick Jones does. So if either one of those guys are here, I'm more than happy with taking one of those.
Also something to look at, with the trade with the 49ers, we also got their 4th-round pick. So, we're picking 111 here. We also get 117. So we're picking just like 6 picks. I know this may not happen. I know some Bengal fans may not necessarily want it because we're so good at it right now. I personally wouldn't mind Dylan Moses. I know last season we drafted Logan Wilson in the 3rd, Davis Gaither in the 4th, and, Marcus Bailey in the 7th. And all 3 of those guys, were pretty decent. And, last season, this past season was Drain Pratt's just his 2nd year. I wouldn't be against, Dylan Moses. The injury this year or so ago, really, set him down in the draft. But I think he's one of the better players available here. This is kind of one of those scenarios. I do like an edge rusher, but us picking 6 spots makes me feel more comfortable with Quincy Roche and Patrick Jones. One of those guys are still probably going to be there. And there's still a decent amount of edge rushers, around this pick too. What are your thoughts on maybe, Dylan Moses maybe here in the 4th?
Yeah, I think Dylan Moses has a lot of underlying issues I do worry about, particularly with the fact that he really struggled through a lot of pain throughout his season this year with Alabama, and that does worry me. I think the fact that he does have some issues in his lower half of his body, it does scare me, and it has maybe dropped him off a lot in my grading right now. But round 4, I think this is a very good ranking by PFF, putting him around here in round 4. I think this is probably where he should go. And he did. Had he not gotten his injury, he might have been the top linebacker prospect of this year's draft. So he could be that good. I see Baron Browning there. I like Baron Browning a lot. Actually, I have him ranked a little bit higher personally than Dylan Moses. But if you want to focus on Dylan Moses' upside, which I think you easily can, he might have the highest upside out of any of the linebackers available right now. So if you want to take him for sure, he could easily fit in as that middle linebacker and be that guy. And I guess if you want to technically assume here, we did not get Josh Bynes back, so you would fill in as that Mike linebacker to replace Josh Bynes for sure.
Yeah, and would you be for taking Moses in the 4th then?
It's tough. There are a lot of guys I would like here as well. I see Trey Smith as a guy I'd be interested in. I already mentioned Baron Browning. I have him as I believe my linebacker 5 right now. I have him really highly ranked. Ambry Thomas is a guy I do somewhat like. Jay Tufele I like a lot, but we already got defensive tackle. I can definitely see the pick here being a linebacker. So if you want to take your guy, that being Dylan Moses, I'd be okay with that for sure.
And you mentioned, Moses, injured, his injury. Something else to look at, Trey Smith. If it wasn't for those blood clots, really, serious, Trey Smith, his blood clots several years ago, I believe in 2018, wasn't for that, a really health scare. Look at Maurice Hurst several years ago. If it wasn't for his heart condition, he would have been a first round pick. He dropped to the fourth round, and we ended up taking Mark Walton instead of Maurice Hurst. If it wasn't for the blood clots with Trey Smith, in my opinion, he might not even be there with our second round pick.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that, usually these teams who are scared to get the injured player ends up always biting him in the butt in some way. So I think, maybe trying to take a risk. If they can stay healthy, they can be fantastic. So I would definitely be okay with, just picking him here and see if he could, picking Dylan Moses here and seeing if he can come back and reach his potential.
So we'll take Dylan Moses with our first fourth round pick. We have 2 fourth round picks. We're just tuning in because we traded back with the 49ers. We swapped first round picks. They gave us their second and fourth this year and their first round pick next year. And, if you're looking here, team needs, we recently done, a free agency mock on Fanspeak. Those team needs are not really team needs anymore because, we got Taylor Mawton, tackle, Darrell Williams and corner, and we signed Ronald Darby there. So those team needs for us aren't necessarily team needs because we've already kind of covered them if you're just tuning in. So who's some people maybe you're looking around here?
Yeah, so I believe this is pick 150, right?
150.
Yeah. So I see. Okay. So we've already got our edge rusher, our defensive line. We have a corner. We have added another offensive lineman already and a wide receiver. So pretty much all of our needs are already filled at this point. I look towards trying to take a best player available at this scenario. I like Quinn Miners a lot. From Wisconsin Whitewater impressed me so much in camp, and I think he also could be a very, very good development guy in the back. So, you have Trey Hopkins, who is getting a little bit older, a little bit up there in age. Maybe you want to try to find his early on replacement as center. I think Quinn Miners could be that guy. If there's any other centers there, maybe we can look at them possibly as well.
Yeah, and something else to maybe look at, for instance here, Patrick Jones is 138. 2 spots below is D'Angelo Malone. I really like him a lot, but I don't understand why he's still on here because he's actually coming back for Western Kentucky another year. But who I completely forgot. Who were you mentioning just now?
Quinn Miners, the center from Wisconsin Whitewater. He's a guy I'm a huge fan of after watching his Senior Bowl. He's a guy I think can be very, very good. For the team, he's the best player available on the board right now. I actually probably agree with that. Outside of maybe Patrick Jones, who is not there, but I think getting him would be huge. Personally, I think getting him to be a future guy for this team to kind of replace Trey Hopkins once he leaves. That continues to help your offensive line stay strong. So I think you'd definitely be a pretty good pick.
Yeah, I think Price may start at center some, unless, Hopkins is fully healthy by, the start of the regular season. But, you look at Price's best season was when Frank Pollock was here with us. And, Hopkins is coming off his season-ending injury. I don't think it's a guarantee Hopkins is even on the team, by the start of the regular season. I think it's possible we cut him. I'm just not sure. I think it's kind of depending on how much Frank Pollock likes Billy Price. I think Price could have a decent year as center if Hopkins isn't ready to go. But, it's really interesting, with Hopkins and some other people because there was multiple people who, played decent and had like season-ending injuries. You look at DJ Reader, Trey Hawkins, multiple other people. And it's going to be really interesting. So you may be looking at the Wisconsin Whitewater center here, or you may be looking at Patrick Jones.
Yeah, Patrick Jones. Let's see. We haven't taken an edge rusher yet, have we?
No.
Patrick Jones would still really intrigue me, honestly. And if we haven't taken an edge rusher, that actually might be on my pick instead. Just because I personally have him graded higher. I think if we're staying more realistic, though, maybe Quinn Byers makes a little bit more sense. But if assuming Patrick Jones is still on the board, maybe adding him to be that pure pass rusher for your team aside from Carl Lawson on third downs might be the pick here too. And I know that's a guy you really like. So I do have Patrick Jones graded higher. I just don't think he'll be here. And when I do mock drafts, I tend to try to stay true to what I think would end up happening. But honestly, it's not our fault that he's here, so I might as well just take him.
I mean, Patrick Jones in the fourth, to me, like, that's an A+ pick. I mean, I've not really done position rankings yet. I want to try to post some of them, but Patrick Jones is one of my favorite. I have no idea why he's this low, and somebody else who I don't understand why it's so low on PFF's mock draft simulator as Jalen Tallman from Pittsburgh. He's listed as an edge here. He's actually a defensive tackle. I know we took Devion Nixon, but would you be for or against maybe taking Jalen Tallman if he's still available with our 5th round pick?
As much as I love Twyman, we already added Nixon, we already added Jones. I think having 3D tackles might be a little bit more overkill, especially with adding Mike Daniels back, having Renell Wren and Josh Tupou plus Khalid Kareem. So it's just weird. It'd be weird to have that many guys. I do like Twyman a lot. I think for sure I'd take him round 4 if he's there, maybe even round 3 as well. But at some point I think it would just be a little bit too much. And I think that's kind of like where I would kind of consider. So I want to see Twyman be successful. And I feel like having Nixon and Hubbard, Lawson, Jones, all these guys ahead of him would just kind of hurt his development for the long run.
So as we go to round 5 here, Twyman, I do like him a lot, but it is, like you said, it is kind of a overkill, getting so many defensive linemen. I like Jonathan Adams from Arkansas State. Like I said before, PFF and Pro Football Network, they're completely different. Adams is around 240. Right here, he's 159. Let's see here. Kylin Hill, I mean, obviously we have Mixon, but I like him a lot. Also, let me go up here. Brady Christensen. To me, he's a really underrated tackle. And, PFF likes him a lot. I know he's rated. He's still available in the 5th round. He's won the 151st, best player here. He was actually ranked, I believe, top 25 best players this year according to Pro Football Focus. And, one of the best ratings, in the country. I know we drafted Rashawn Slater. I wouldn't be against Brady Christensen here from BYU. So who's maybe somebody like you're looking at here in the 5th round?
Christensen intrigues me, but again, I also look at center possibly as being, finding the replacement for Hopkins of the future. Myers and Jake Jackson are both really good. I have Myers graded higher than Christensen personally, but if Christensen's again, he can be a good swing tackle for you. You already have Moton and Jonah Williams, who are probably going to be long-term tackles for your future. So I don't know if he'd ever be able to start, but he could be a good rotational guy if you were to want him. Which I think would be pretty good. I'm also interested in seeing maybe if there's any wide receivers at this point. Now that we're in the 5th round, I think maybe adding another wide receiver, maybe in the slot to replace Alex Erickson, might be a good idea as well.
So Jonathan Adams, 159. Let's see here. Which in the 6th round, I want to be against it. Daz Newsome from North Carolina, Shai Smith. I like Robert Rochelle. I know he's a corner, but I think he's really underrated from Central Arkansas. I mean, he was pretty decent at the Senior Bowl. Anthony Schwartz, I mean, he's so fast. Are you maybe leaning towards a center here or maybe towards a wide receiver?
Yeah, so it's a tough decision because, we're at pick 150 right now. Center might be the best player available, being Josh Myers. But at the same time, a guy like Daz Newsome, I'm a huge fan of Daz Newsome. I actually have a 3rd round grade on him right now. If the Bengals were to lose Alex Erickson, you need to be able to replace a guy who can be the backup slot receiver behind Tyler Boyd, which Daz Newsome would be, and also be able to have the punt returner, which Daz Newsome also can be. He's a really good special teamer. He would fill in a huge need to replace what we lost in Alex Erickson. And I think my issue is Myers wouldn't really have a role carved out for him until we saw Hopkins retire or leave the team. Well, as for Daz Newsome, I think he immediately gets a role as being that wide receiver 5 or 6 for this team, being that rotational slot receiver, maybe even being the backup to Tyler Boyd, while also being the punt returner for this team. So I think he kind of fits in, already has a spot included with him here as well.
Yeah, I wouldn't be against taking center. I wouldn't be against taking Daz Newsome. But like I said, I've only done PFF a couple of times. I do Pro Football Network. I don't know how Dwayne Eskridge is 193. I've seen him go up
Uh,
like draft boards a ton.
yeah.
Like that is crazy.
And I have a second round grade on Dwayne Eskridge as well. So I normally do most of my drafting on the Draft Network. I actually have the premium subscription to it, so I'm able to trade down stuff like that if need be. Yeah, so I use that one a lot, and that one's actually I think really accurate in my opinion. But Pro Football Focus has their own kind of grades, and they do tend to go a little bit off from what I personally believe. Eskridge would be my pick here if we're taking BPA for sure, because I definitely have the highest grade on him, but. Daz Newsome, I think, probably fits the best need and probably stays a little bit more realistic if that's what you want to go instead.
So, would you take Newsome or a center? I know we kind of already talked about it. It doesn't really matter to me. I would be happy with either one.
It doesn't matter to me personally either. I think the only difference maker for me personally would be Daz Newsome having a more carved out role day one, which I think is probably what you want from the pick at this point. Just someone that can come in and be a special teamer. Daz Newsome would be a fantastic special teamer. On top of being a returner and a backup slot receiver for Tyler Boyd, which you don't really have now that you've lost Alex Erickson. So I think you could probably have Daz Newsome create a bigger role than what a guy like Drake Jackson could for your offense. So I personally take Daz Newsome.
So we'll say Daz Newsome, wide receiver from North Carolina, in the fifth round here. I'm really surprised Dwayne Eskridge. Like I think he could be a top 40 pick. Like he has a really good Senior Bowl. I just don't understand why he's so low here.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense. Honestly, they are so inconsistent with their grades. PFFs, sometimes they have their moments for sure, but some of these grades are just, in my opinion, just I agree. I disagree with a lot of them personally, but it's it just depends on really what you want in certain receivers. I know a lot of people. I know they are worried about Dwayne Eskridge being 23 years old, I believe, at this point, so he's really, really old for a rookie. But his Senior Bowl was crazy good, and I was really impressed. I think he can be fantastic for any team if he were to be drafted. I would take him personally round 3. I think he could have easily been the pick round 3 instead of Terrace Marshall round 2, and I would have been just as happy.
So Reed Blankenship, you'll see at 189. I might be wrong. I thought he came back to Middle Tennessee.
Yeah, he returned. He returned to school. So yeah, it's weird. I guess they really haven't updated their big boards yet.
So I mean, we've kind of talked about for the past couple rounds, looking at a center. Try to see here. We just took Daz Newsome, wide receiver, North Carolina. If you're just tuning in, we're doing a sit-around mock draft from PFF. Before this, we did a mock free agency on FanSpeak. We were able to sign quite a few decent players. Darrell Williams, Taylor Mauton, Ronald Darby, and Derek Wolfe. So is anybody like you're really looking at here in the 6th round?
Alaric Jackson's a guy I really like. Javian Hawkins out of Louisville is a really good running back. There's my pick right there, probably. Victor Dimokije, the edge rusher from Duke. Fantastic edge rusher. You mentioned maybe wanting to add in another extra edge rusher. That would be a guy I really like as well. I would definitely love to add him. Trey McKitty, tight end from Georgia, is another name. He's my tight end 5 right now, so I would also love to add a guy like that. Those are my probably 3 favorite names right now.
I know we already took wide receiver, and we're not going to take like a third wide receiver just in the third, just here, just start of the 6th round. I don't understand how Trevon Grimes, is this far too. I really think he gets overlooked by Kadarius Toney and Kyle Pitts, but Grimes, you watch Florida's games, he was a really productive wide receiver, and I really don't think he gets the credit he deserves. Marquez Stevenson from Houston here, I'm really surprised he's still available. I don't think he'll last that far at all. I know he's way down the list. I mean, this is let's see here. This is pick 192. Somebody I like is Teron Jackson from Coastal Carolina. This edge class is just so loaded. You mentioned Victor D. I'm not pronouncing that last name. I know I'm going to mess that up. So who would be your preferred pick maybe here in the 6th round?
Yeah, I was actually probably going to settle on it, probably being Victor Dimokije until I found Trey McKitty there from Georgia, the tight end. The Bengals could probably use an extra tight end, and Trey McKitty had a very, very impressive camp. He's kind of a pretty raw tight end, but we've noticed that, you mentioned it earlier today or earlier in this podcast, Trey McKitty or these late round tight ends can end up being very, very good for you. And I think Trey McKitty could easily be one of those guys. If you were to be able to add him, he could take over that next tight end one once you're able to get rid of CJ Uzomah, or if Drew Sample doesn't really pan out well. Getting that extra guy just to kind of come into the tight end room and cause some more competition, I think would be fantastic.
I don't see him. What number is he? Do you see him on screen?
Type in his name. Maybe it's just TRE McKitty. I think it should be able to let you. I saw it on the thing earlier, but I definitely saw his name. I don't know where he was at though. He might have been a little bit further down, but I like him a lot.
So 215, we're going to take him, and round 6.
I would love that value. McKitty, I think, could be a 4th or 5th round pick, or early day 3, maybe even late day 3, day 2. I like him a lot. I was really impressed with his tape, or with his Senior Bowl performance. His tape wasn't too much. He didn't really do too much in his tape, but watching him in the Senior Bowl, watching how good he was whenever he was given the opportunities, I was extremely impressed, and I think he could be a great round addition in day 3.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind him. I mean, Quentin Morris, to me, I really like him. Late round guy from Bowling Green, had a really impressive Senior Bowl. Even hurdled over a guy, during the game, really impressive. And it's really interesting. I mean, there's a couple tight ends who could be really. You got to be. That would absolutely suck. Brandon Knox, the Steelers.
Yeah, you don't want to see that.
I was getting ready to say, running backs. I mean, I know we did sign P. Ryan. We had Mixon Bernard. I wouldn't be against the running back here. You did kind of mention Javion Hawkins from Louisville. I like him a lot. Elijah Mitchell from Louisville. I believe he's gone. Knox being gone. And so we have 2 more picks here. To me, right off the bat, Tony Fields from West Virginia. I don't think he should be here at all. I know we drafted Dylan Moses, but it's one of those scenarios. It's in the 7th round. It's like he shouldn't be there. And if it doesn't work out, it's one of those like low risk, high reward situations. And you look throughout the years, we've had some big hits in the 5th, 6th, 7th round. Georgia Loca was a 5th round pick. Aaron Jones was a 5th round pick. Darius Phillips was a 5th. I know it was years ago. Husmanzada was a 7th. Alton Tate was a 7th. I believe CJ Uzomah was a 6th round pick. I mean, we've had lots of really good players who are late round picks, and I know we drafted Dylan Moses, but I really, really, really like Tony Fields here.
And another guy I really like is you just passed him up, Jacoby Stevens, safety from LSU. We already re-signed Brandon Wilson to be that backup free safety for the team. Jacoby Stevens is more of a box safety, kind of a guy, basically a backup for Von Bell. If the Bengals were to have a pure backup for Von Bell, I think Jacoby Stevens would be a great addition as well, because he really plays that strong safety, kind of the box safety position. Is able to basically do basically the same thing Von Bell does if he were to ever actually get injured. He would be a pretty good replacement for him as well. But I agree with you. I like Tony Fields a lot. I haven't actually got the chance to scout Tony Fields yet, but once I get around to it, I have heard a lot of good things from him, though. I read a couple articles on Tony Fields, and I know a lot of people are very, very pleased with him as well.
Yeah, these guys here, Phil is probably only one of the few players, the players left I've been able to watch some of. So, would you take Jacoby Stevens here or Tony Fields with Pitt 231?
Honestly, I'll leave it up to you if you want. We can probably draft both of them because we have 2 picks right after. So if you just want to try draft Tony Fields and then Jacoby Stevens, I think both of them would be great additions to the defense.
Yeah, so we pick 231 Eagles, and that's our pick again. So we'll take Tony Fields, linebacker, West Virginia. So Jacoby Stevens is still available. So is he your pick, or is there anybody like you saw you were kind of surprised is still available?
Maybe see if there's any running backs left. If not, it'd probably end up being the pick for me at least, because I think we still need that backup safety. And I'm not a huge. I don't. I haven't really watched Gary Brightwell yet, so I really don't know too much about him. Brian Robinson, I haven't seen a lot of. Jamar Jefferson, Raheem Boyd's a guy I like a lot too, out of Arkansas. I do like Raheem Boyd. I did enjoy his tape. I don't know if he's better than Jacoby Stevens though, and plus we also have Travion Williams in the back developing as well. So we already have 4 good running backs. Stevens adds a fourth safety that the Bengals need because keep in mind they lost Trayvon Henderson. So without Sean Williams, they only have 3 safeties on the roster. So if you want to go ahead and fill out the roster there by getting Jacoby Stevens, he would be a pretty good addition as a fourth safety on the team. Kind of being that Sean Williams replacement, also being a good special teamer. He really is the exact. He's a very similar player what Sean Williams is, in my opinion.
Yeah, you mentioned Boyd from Arkansas. I was really kind of wanting, Brendan Knox from Marshall. I mean, you look at his games for his career. I don't know the top of my head. I know he had to average at probably around 100 yards per game for his career. I mean, he was really, really impressive. Him coming out to me really did not make any sense. To me, running back is the most easiest position to replace, and he didn't play at a big school either. So I was really surprised he came out. I would really like him if he was available, but obviously he's not. Javon Hawkins, like I mentioned, would like him. So we took Tony Fields, linebacker, West Virginia, and with our first pick of the 7th round, and we will take Jacoby Stevens, the safety from LSU, with our second pick of the 7th round. It's our last pick of this mock draft. To me, I think this team's pretty good. I know we did not get Joe Thuney. That's the thing that upsets me the most. But aside from that, I feel like, I don't know if I'm being biased. I'm not trying to be. I think we can maybe contend for the playoffs after this. Maybe like a 7-9, 8-8, around that.
Yeah, I mean, just kind of like recap the roster. You'd have Joe Burrow at quarterback, of course, Mixon at running back. Then your offensive line is completely revamped. You have left tackle being Jonah Williams, left guard being Darrell Williams, probably, or actually more than likely Rashawn Slater will be the left guard there. Center Trey Hopkins, right guard Darrell Williams, and then right tackle Taylor Moton. I mean, complete 180 from what it was last year. That's a fantastic offensive line. And of course, your wide receiver core being now T. Higgins, Terrace Marshall, and Tyler Boyd, much improved from what it was last year because AJ Green struggled a lot last year. Let's keep it real. So Terrace Marshall offers a younger, good option who I think can immediately be better than what AJ Green was last year when it came to completion percentage and be able to catch the ball whenever he was targeted. So, upgrade at offensive line, upgrade at wide receiver. Your defensive line gets a huge revamp, adding Davion Nixon and Patrick Jones as well to the defensive line. So I think those are 2 huge additions, along with Derek Wolfe, who we also added at cornerback. Adding Ronald Darby is pretty huge for this team, and also Tyson Campbell from Georgia. Some really, really good players there. I didn't mention at tight end. We also added Trey McKitty to the tight end core, and then at linebacker, adding Dylan Moses and Tony Fields, I believe. So 2 great linebackers added to that team with Jermaine Pratt and assuming we maybe get Josh Bynes, even if not, though. And then at the safety room, Jesse Bates, Vaughn Bell, added Jacoby Stevens. I mean, we added pretty much one player at every single position, either depth or starter, and just made almost every single position better. I agree with you. We got rid of the players who were holding us back. We added some new players that were better. We completely revamped the O-line, let Joe Burrow have every single weapon and every single opportunity he wants to be great. And this is a team next year I think could be fantastic if we were able to have this offseason.
If you're just tuning in, we did a free NC mock from Fanspeak. We just did a PFF mock draft simulator. If you're just tuning in, make sure to subscribe to the channel and like this video. I really, really appreciate it. I mean, we've been on here for about 2 hours now. We completely, redid the Bengals. And to me, I agree with what you said there. Every single position we drafted or signed, I think there was a couple of positions I think we significantly upgraded. But for the most part, we upgraded every single position that we drafted or signed.
And even the positions we didn't technically upgrade, like quarterback and running back, they were upgraded with the offensive line being improved so much. I mean, Mixon and Burrow are gonna have so much easier lives now that they have a good offensive line to block for them. I mean, their lives are gonna be so much better, so much easier. So even the positions we didn't necessarily improve on, they got better. They got better today with this additions we had. Honestly, I know we had the issue with the free agency not being able to do it again, but honestly, I think with the trade down and being able to get as many prospects as we did, we ended up filling our roster completely. We really didn't need to add anyone else in free agency. I think we did exactly what we needed to do. That's a pretty filled up roster. I think we had 13, 12 picks in the draft. And we got 6, 7 free agents that we signed, as well as possibly some other guys that might have been signed technically. So you had like 19 new players, all who can be impactful players for your team on the 53-man roster. It's a revamped Bengals team. It's a young Bengals team, but I think it'd be a team that could do very, very well for the far future, for sure.
So we have 10 picks here. I mean, Slater, Terrence Marshall, Tyson Campbell, Davion Nixon, Dylan Moses, Patrick Jones, Daz Newsome, Trey McKinney, Tony Fields, and Jacoby Stevens. What's your favorite? What's your favorite pick that we made in the draft?
I might be a little biased here. Davion Nixon round 3 is crazy value. I don't think it ever realistically happens, but I love it. As for like a sneaky pick, I actually love Tyson Campbell. I have been a huge fan of Tyson Campbell for a long time. I watched him and Eric Stokes both at Georgia, excuse me. I watched them both play together, and I mean, that's like a 1A and 1B cornerback room for them. Both of them were technically cornerback ones. I really, really like Tyson Campbell, especially in zone coverage, being that kind of good, smooth corner. Was very, very smart, had a really good really good awareness, was able to, recognize whenever a receiver was getting open and being able to cover him in his zone. I thought he was a good lockdown corner across from Eric Stokes. And I thought Tyson Campbell had a lot of potential, a lot of raw ability to be a great corner in the future. So I really like adding him, because I think if you lose one of Wayne's or Darby in the future, Campbell comes in and you don't drop off at all. So I hope it fixes the cornerback problem for the near future.
Yeah, I really like Tyson Campbell, and I do like Davion Nixon, because those are picks we made. Those are probably best player available, and those are huge upgrades to the team. Team needs. To me, my favorite's Patrick Jones. I wouldn't be even against us getting him at pick 38. He's one of my favorite edge rushers. I think it would really help us out. I know we signed Lawson, but the uncertainty of Sam Hubbard. You're not sure if he's going to. You're not sure if this will be his final season, with the Bengals. And so how many wins would you say, do you think we would still be last in a division after this, mock free agency and draft?
This is a tough question. It really depends on the other team's off seasons, of course. But if the Bengals did this, in my opinion, I think you win at least to 9 games. I know that's crazy to say. I think this is a 9-win team. We saw the Dolphins last year go from winning, 2 or 3 games or it was a little bit more than that, wasn't it? It was about 5 wins, I think they had that last season, 4 or 5 wins.
Yeah, 4 or 5.
To 10-win season. I mean, they improved 4 or 5 games. The Bengals add this offensive line, add the defense, add the extra weapon in Terrace Marshall. With a quarterback like Joe Burrow, who's far better than any quarterback the Dolphins had last year, they can improve a lot of wins. The Bengals only won. They didn't win many games. Only won, I believe, 4 this past season. So with all these additions, I think you at least win 5, maybe even 6 more games. So my prediction would be 9 of 10 wins, which I think would at least be 3rd in the AFC North, maybe even 2nd. And I think that would be a team that could possibly sneak into the playoffs as maybe the 7th or 6th seed for sure.
Yeah, and something else. You mentioned the Dolphins. I'm not trying to be biased. You look at our roster to the Dolphins, ours is significantly better. I know they have Byron Jones, and they have a couple of really good corners. But for the rest of the part, Burrow's far and away better than Tua. Our running backs are a lot better. But it will be interesting, if the Dolphins would, pit maybe Najee Harris or Travis Etienne. Our wide receivers are better. Our offensive line now, I think it may be a little bit better. I know, when we were playing, it wasn't, but I mean, we upgraded the offensive line so much. I think this is at least 7-9 team. I think we could win maybe 9 games. And if this happens, or even if this is somewhat close, I don't see how we're last in the division. At this point, I would say we would maybe be in like a third, tied in third scenario, maybe with the Browns and the Steelers, would be last. But if this happens, this doesn't just help us right now. This helps us in the future. And I mean, I know we only have 6 wins the last 2 years, but a draft like this and a free agency like this could really possibly make us Super Bowl contenders in a couple years. I mean, all of these young guys, once they develop, I mean, this could really, really be great for this franchise if this were to happen.
Yeah, I completely agree. This is a franchise-changing offseason. This is what I hope the Bengals consider doing, spending a lot of money in free agency, getting the offensive line built up, going into the draft with little to no needs immediately, and just getting the best player available like we did. We got the best player almost in every single round, and our team looks incredible talent-wise now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know we didn't get Tooney. Aside from Tooney, I think this is the best case scenario. You know, we done a free agency mock on FanSpeak. We did a 7-round mock draft simulator on Pro Football Focus. Overall, I thought we did great. You know, we've been on here for over 2 hours now. Could you tell some? We're getting ready to end it. Could you tell some of the listeners that can follow you on social media?
Yeah, Stripe Hype Cincy on Instagram. Make sure you go give me a follow there. Post a lot of Bengals content, a lot of draft content as well. At Blake Jude 714 on Twitter. That I do a lot of draft content and again Bengals content on there as well. So a little bit of both. Best of both worlds on Twitter. So Blake Jude 714 there, and then BengalsInsiders.com is my website that I own. I have a lot of writers down there working really hard every single day to pump out articles daily for everyone. So Milan, if you go check that out. Thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Make sure to go follow him. The links in the description will be his social media will be in the links description below. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video. I really appreciate it. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time on the Sports Behind Show.